Can you talk about pain?
What kind of pain, Cassie?
Toothache? No. The good kind of pain.
No, there is no good kind of pain. At least not initially. There's a sort of pain that causes sorrow, and if you happen to be kind of equipped with, if you have some tools, and sorrow can kind of drag your body to the church. And if you happen to be a person of faith, you can sit there, you can talk to God if you believe in such a thing, and then you can cry, and then you can have your own unique communion, and then go home feeling relatively good. In that sense, pain can be a blessing because it forces reflection, examination, it kind of refines you, it baptizes you in some ways. But when there is pain and there is no outlet, it's like water just sitting somewhere. It can baptize you, but when water it's not flowing, it kind of just rots and turns into poison. And you drink it, you get sick. Pain stands in opposite of comfort, stands in opposite of pleasure. It's not a very pleasant feeling, unless you are sitting on your sofa watching TV, you're suffering from sloth and you're comfortable, and all of a sudden you say to yourself, I'm too comfortable. I'm not thinking, I'm not reflecting, I'm not feeling, I'm just watching TV. The days or the hours are just passing by. So you kind of impose this psychological narrative, and all of a sudden you suffer from some emotional pain, which is good. You begin to manipulate yourself. But your question about pain really has to be a bit more specific. And it may not be perhaps the appropriate place for it, I don't really know. Because I think most of the questions, not all, but most of the questions that people ask generally, they are very personal and they are somewhat private, and we try to kind of express those questions in a social setting where no one will get a glimpse into our interior, and rightly so. There are certain kinds of pains that they just pull you back to your body. If I have a toothache, I'm going to spend the next few hours of my life driving to Elk Grove to see my brother-in-law. I'm all body, I'm all meat, Sometimes you place your body in an environment where you say, meet a guy or meet a gal, and expectations begin to blossom. And then for some reason, rightly or wrongly, your expectations, they don't blossom. And so now you have emotional pain, but it's directly connected to your body again, you have intellectual pain, you're trying to figure something out, whether you're trying to figure something out about your physical body or emotional body, but it robs you of sleep, it robs you of rest, The problem with, I think, having spiritual pain, if there is such a thing, you have no idea what to do with your physical body because it is so useless. You want to kind of take your body here and there and have some fun with it, but your body gets under attack from your mind. because of your reflections. You can't enjoy yourself. And you have a body, it's there to have fun, it's there to take you from point A to point B. But because you have such a strong, I think, relationship to this other part of you, and for the lack of the better word, we'll just call it the spiritual aspect of you, it really doesn't know what to do when you go to a party. It doesn't know what to do when, as a mom, you run into other moms who talk about their children and their schools and Kumon and piano. You say, I don't really care, but I have to engage in this nevertheless. And it's exhausting, If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you're interested in, say, talking philosophy, but they just want to watch TV, And by the time you get to this, I think, the spiritual aspect of yourself, you're pretty much on your own. You can have friends, but it's kind of like Irina. It's you and it's Bhai Sahib. There is no one else. You have people who say hello and goodbye, and that's basically it. And ultimately, whatever pain you're suffering from, you got to go through it yourself. I think the best thing you can do as a mature human being, if you have pain, just don't piss on everyone. You don't have that right. So you hate your job. Okay, well, your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, they're not at fault about this. You want to go somewhere, scream, fine. You want to quit your job, quit your job. But it's something, it's a puzzle that you have to kind of put the pieces together. And if you have a nice enough companion who says, or a teacher who says, okay, let's sit down and figure things out, well, fine, good for you, more power to you. If on the other hand you have no one in your life and you have to go through this on your own for the most part, you just need to shut your mouth and just do it. And it's not going to be easy. And people may give you the benefit of the doubt the first, the second, the third time. Eventually they just won't open the door for you. But that's one of the things about pain. You really, really have to go through it. It's very much like the Matrix. It's very much like what Gurdjieff says. That, if you're working with a Bhai Sahib, all they can do is create the physical environment for you. I can just make a room that has nice icons, it has nice painting, it has nice pictures, nice books. But you have to yourself kind of be in the mood to pray, be in the mood to sit and think. I may be able to offer some help, but at the end, if you're not in the right place, it doesn't matter who you're around. They can't do much for you. I think it's always good to be around someone who guides the pain, creates the pain and guides the pain. It's something we've talked about before. If I am your husband, for example, and you and I have had a very, say, difficult conversation. You can go to Alice and you can talk to her. You can go to Stacy and talk to her. And you may figure things out on your own, on your part, but when it comes to the parts that belong to me, what Alison has told you, what Stacy has told you, they're not going to be helpful. If you have broken me in some ways and I have broken you in some ways, this is between you and I. It has to be guided by you and I. Irina can't go to anyone else. It has to be only by Sahib. So when you talk about pain, the question is, what kind of pain? How was it created? Who created it? You can't go to someone who's an alien. It doesn't work. You know. Yeah, I remember a few times with Hussein. I was just in very depressive moods. It was good. I enjoyed them. And I would go to him at a gathering at his house and say, "Can I go to your study?" He says, "Yeah, go there and stay there as long as you want." I would never do that to ask anybody else for that, because it wasn't intimate. I wasn't intimate with those people. Hussein was the one who gave birth to my desire for thinking and philosophy and those things. Nobody else did that for me, and he was the only person I could go to. I'm not going to go to my father. What the hell does he understand about those things? He's a father, Sometimes I would ask of the other Hussein and Mehrdad, because we were all there with Hussein for 10, 15 years, but no one else outside of that circle. Let me again go back to this. You need friendships. And what we have in this room, this is not friendship. It's just some people coming together, sitting, talking, sharing bread, and that's it. Friendship is when the two of you are on the same path. You speak the same language. You have the same emotions. You basically worship the same thing. And because you have the same language, and because you're on the same path, and because you worship the same thing, just in case there's a glitch inside you, you can share that with your friend. See, it's kind of like she's teaching a class, you're teaching the same class, you just taught it a few semesters ago. You say, "If you want, I have the stuff, I can send them your way." You say, "Fine." That's a common language. But when it comes to the more refined aspects of life, it's very, very different. The other part of it is, for friendships to kind of take place, you really need to spend a lot of time with people. I mean, it was you and Carolyn 20 years ago. And it wasn't like Carolyn could run and you're just learning how to stand. Both of you were crawling. Okay? And so there were days that you could stand and she was crawling and you would lift her. There were days that you were crawling, she could stand and she could lift you. Because if you had met Carolyn when she was running and you were crawling, it wouldn't be friendships. It wouldn't happen. It would be impossible. Because then she would say, "I'm running, I don't want to slow down," and just pick her up. And then she would resent you for doing that. And then eventually she would not pick up your phone calls. You start at the very beginning, And the pain that you have, it could make your life complicated if, for example, you're married, you have a husband or two, or you have a child or children, if you have parents who are elderly and need help. Because depending on the sort of pain, it could either make your relationships valuable, or you could see them as worthless and obstacles. All these questions that we come together and ask. It reminds me of that Kafka novel, The Trial. Where basically He says, if you're a human being, you're guilty. And it doesn't have to do with you having done anything wrong. You kind of just wake up and you say, I have a great life, but it just doesn't mean anything to me. You know, your wife hasn't done anything to you, your kids haven't done anything to you, your parents haven't done anything to you, you have a great job, you have a great life, and yet you feel guilty, incomplete, insufficient. And there isn't much you can do with any of that. You know, Hussein, not that one, but the other one. You know, Hussein had a dream, and in one of his dreams, he kind of sees himself. He's standing in front of himself, and he kind of just looks at himself for a little bit, you know, observes. Then, in the dream, he shakes the person standing in front of him, which is himself, and then they embrace, and then they kiss each other on the cheek. And he had a very difficult life. He still has a difficult life. But what the dream basically symbolizes is you've made peace. You've accepted yourself. You've accepted your life the way it is. There is no reason to fight on a daily basis. You know, you want to become agitated, frustrated, angry once in a while, fine. But to be on this rampage on a daily basis, it's just no good anymore. And he made peace with that. You know, Betty Davis, she was a singer and actor. She had mentioned once that old age is not for sissies. And it's so true. You know, I just can't hang out with 20-year-olds anymore. I can't, you know, pick up bags of 80-pound concrete anymore. I have to walk slower now. You know, I have to eat different types of food. You know, I don't have very much patience. Now, you can either kind of just say, well, this is just the way it is. You struggle with it, you know, because the way you see yourself in your mind is very different than the way you see yourself in actual life. And then you fight, you feel bad, you resent, you kind of look at the young people wasting time and you want to pounce on them. But there comes a point where you say, well, I just need to walk slower and eat slower and talk slower and think slower, you know. So when you talk about pain, you're also talking about loss. There's always going to be loss in life, always. And it's difficult. You know, you're not going to suffer too much if you have lost something that you're not attached to, you don't care for, you don't find value in. You know, so it's always going to be difficult to lose something that you have been invested in. You're going to suffer. And do you box, Cassie? No?
No, I used to.
Um,
A little bit. When I was young and had a body that moved well.
Yes. Well, you know, you have to get these heavy bags.
Mm-hmm.
And someone, you know, like a friend or a brother or a coach kind of just drops them on your stomach, you know, and then, you know, the first few times it's very, very painful. But then somehow you begin to grow muscles. and then what used to be painful no longer bothers you because you can't really feel much. There are still certain parts of your body that are very sensitive to hard blows, but for the most part, this main part is okay, you know. I think if somehow someone can train you to build muscles when you're in pain, then as you practice more, the pain lessens. The same experience will not have the same impact on you, you know. It takes a lot of energy, doesn't it, Cassie? You know. It's like you're in a lot of pain, but you have to put on a very good show so no one can suspect. So you suffer from two areas. You know, the pain that lives inside you and the fact that you have to pretend. You have to smile when you really want to cry. You have to be soft-spoken when you really want to scream. Which is good in many ways. You know, it's a mature way to be. You could have been home tonight, Cassie. You watched a good movie with your husband, enjoy the presence of your child. You come here, we give you bad food, bad conversation. You sit in this room with 4 or 5 people who look miserable. So there's a good part of you that enjoys pain very much.